Okay, I will get started. It looks like the entrance has slowed down a little bit. So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'm Stephanie Lane, and I'm the Director of Alumni Relations here at Humboldt State. I'm honored to welcome you all to this special event for Carin Kaltschmidt, who was one of our 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. Throughout this webinar, you can feel free to submit any questions you have for Carin through the Q&A feature, which should be at the bottom of your Zoom window, and we'll answer all the questions at the end. So Humboldt State has been recognizing the achievements of alumni since 1960 when it launched its annual Who's Who's Award. That's the Distinguished Alumni Award. Distinguished alumni are individuals recognized as leaders in their fields or outstanding contributors to their community, nation, or Humboldt State. Each year, the Office of Alumni Relation receives tons of nominations for Distinguished Alumni Awards. And then a committee of alumni and past award winners and HSU staff review all of the nominations and select those most deserving of the honor. Carin, as you'll see, is no exception. Carin graduated from HSU in 1990 with a degree in computer information science. She is an Ernst Young executive who leads professional consulting services for large global corporations. For more than 25 years, she's specialized in managing complex business and technology transformations for high-tech, media, and entertainment industries. She's led a crisis management program for Sony Pictures Entertainment following a cybersecurity hack. She managed a global expansion markets program at Cisco Systems to set up new Cisco legal entities in now over 30 emerging countries. And she headed a team at Disney to launch Disney Plus into homes, laptops, tablets, and smartphones across the globe, which I know probably some of us very much appreciate. Carin, we would also like to present you with your Distinguished Alumni Award plaque, which I'm going to be mailing to you. But if you were here, I'd hand this off to you and shake your hand. So virtually, there you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. As part of the Distinguished Alumni Program, we invite the alumni who receive the honor to come back and speak to current students, alumni, faculty, and staff and community members about their experience at HSU and their career. So Carin, I so appreciate you being here today and taking time to be with all of us. At this point, the screen is all yours.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the honor. I'm just so appreciative to be able to have an opportunity to be recognized by HSU. That it was almost 30 years ago. It's hard to believe. I still feel that young as well, and with my experiences at the university, it really inspired me and really had a big impact in terms of how I led my journey, both personally and professionally as well. And now at this point in my life, I'm actually looking to make some transitions and do some new and fun things as well. And today I want to talk about what's your superpower. And I've coached and leaded a lot of folks both within my career in being at Ernst Young as a leader and working with lots of different clients, especially in the media entertainment business, which is my passion. And I'll tell you a little bit of stories about how I got involved in that aspect. But as it just relates to being able to work with lots of different diverse folks from around the world and be able to give my own insights on how they can actually create their own personal brand. A lot of times, folks would ask, what is a personal brand? What is that? I really don't have any idea. Or how do I project my brand and market that? Or what do really people think about me? What do I want to be known for? These are all things that you're going to be able to learn today. Some 3 easy steps. Try to keep it simple, concise about learning how to create your own personal brand. Throughout your life, you can really use this as you go through good transitions, tough transitions. We've all been through those, especially now with COVID too. It's a big transition for so many people. And each of us are touched differently in so many ways. Like we're having this wonderful speaking series, a way to really be able to touch and connect with people that maybe we hadn't done in the past before. So with that, I want to just share with you, I'm going to start a presentation now, and it's not going to be all about PowerPoints, but I think it helps you remember some of these as well. And I want to share my own personal brand as well. So let me kind of get that going. And my personal brand is about the heart and soul of my life's work is really finding the unique potential in people and then empowering them to thrive. And I've done that through my passion of really connecting with people. Education is so important, but going forward, really being an executive coach and being an educator of things that I've learned in my life and be able to share those with others for the next generation to really transform the way the whole world is going to be working going forward, because it's going to be different. 2020, what a year, has really made such a different an impact, positive, and there are other things that we want to learn. Also, I love media and entertainment. As Stephanie mentioned, I have worked at Walt Disney, helping launch Disney Plus. And so this is like what happens behind the scene, all those movies and shows that they produced and getting it out to everyone around the world. And this time, because of the whole streaming service disruption, you know, with Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and now Peacock, I'm sure all of you have done some binging on some of those shows as well. Well, I fortunately had an opportunity to be part of being able to deliver that to people around the world, not just me, but a whole team, because I could find the unique strengths of people and really get them motivated to make it happen in record time. So with that, I think we're going to have a poll so that we can make this a little bit interactive, so that if you want to, Megan, go ahead and launch the poll. And the question here is for everyone that's on the call is to, what are the characteristics of a personal brand? And this is a multiple choice question. So there's a few in there that maybe aren't quite, I'll give you a little hint. Some maybe aren't really exactly right on, some are really right on. So if we'll take a few minutes, and Megan, you can share with us how we're doing on the poll, and we're going to share it back to everybody. Again, the question is, what are the characteristics of a personal brand? Thank you, everyone, for interacting and putting your input in. Glad that you could be here, because I think you're truly going to be able to walk away with some excellent information to really be able to either create your brand if you don't have one, and be able to further redefine it if it's maybe a little dusty on the shelf there and you need to kind of re-energize it. All of that will be applicable for all of you today, because this is all about you and your brand.
Okay, we're almost done.
Great.
We'll go,
so now you all are going to see
89%. So.
Oh, right. That's awesome. So what does everybody think? Aha, confidence, kind of showing your abilities and being able to be really sure on who you are. That seemed to be a very strong one. And everybody that selected that, you are right on. Your talents. Everybody has their hidden talent. Sometimes I ask people, tell me your hidden talent. Let's hear about it. I remember I had one that shared with everybody. She said, well, I'm not quite sure I want to share this, but I eat fire. And we said, what? We're like, couldn't believe it. You never think of it. And so suddenly now everybody thought she was so courageous and doing something kind of scary, but it was just a way for kind of us to learn more about each other. And your speaking ability, just about the confidence and the way you share, are all really important ones. Now we talk about job title. I know a few of you changed that. You know, we're not so much into titles these days, and I would want to encourage that it's not about the title that you hold. It's about the way you carry yourself, the way you actually deliver on the promise. And so if we think about brands too, from just overall brands that are out there, there are things that come immediate to mind, like Nike, let's just do it, let's get going. We think about even Zoom today is a newer brand. We always talk about, let's go Zoom now. And like TikTok, you know, is really out there. People are having fun with that. Those are newer brands that have kind of risen. But some of the older ones like Southwest, maybe many of you have flown Southwest. They're the friendly airline. That's the easy one to work with. So all of these are brands that have an emotion that's tied to it. Tell us something. We remember something about it. So if I go and talk about what is your personal brand, it's what differentiates you. It's what you stand for. It's what sets you apart. Now, some of you may think, well, I don't know what that is. That's okay. We're going to learn about how you find that and discover that about yourself. Maybe somebody else already knows it. I remember a story when I was working with this gal, and she wanted to, you know, take on this new assignment, but she said, I can't do that. And I said, I know you have it in you. I believe in you. You just don't know it yet. So I'm going to just hand it off to you, and I'm going to leave the room, and you're going to be able to run with it. And she provided feedback later that she learned from that someone trusted in her and saw her capabilities and what differentiated before she knew it herself. And so from then, she was able to pay that forward because now she was able to understand what the differences were for her. So in the earlier poll, we talked about your talents, we've talked about your capabilities or your competencies, your skills, and that could be all kinds of different capabilities, whether it's technical, your ability to care for people, your ability to do some great artistry work. All of these capabilities are part of your brand. And then your personality is also part of that, you know, how you project that confidence and communicate what you're about, and maybe even projecting what someone else you know's brand is, because often you can be an advocate and speak about someone else when they're not in the room. And then your gravitas, you know, what is your charisma? What is your dynamic? Maybe you're an introvert, but that's okay too, because you have gravitas in being a good listener, potentially, or really being able to be very analytical. All of these things make you have your personal brand. So let's now talk about what are the steps that you as an individual can do to create your own personal brand. Or maybe you need to reinvent your personal brand, or just dust it off a little bit and be able to kind of refresh it, because maybe there's perception out there about yourself that you want to change and you want to make a shift. And so there's 3 points to make. Number 1 is explore. Number 2 is about describe what that personal brand is, and 3, how you get the word out. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on some of these, but before I do, I just have some quotes. I love quotes, and this was from George Bernard Shaw, was saying, life is not about finding you. You know, sometimes people say, I need to find myself. Well, I really believe it's about creating yourself. If you've gone to HSU or other kinds of universities too, you've been creating yourself, learning, educating yourself. You have experience, whether that's through work, volunteer work, other personal, either failures or successes. All of those have created who you are today. So let's learn about who you are today. So let's talk about explore. Now's the time for you to think about what your strengths are. I have a little quote there that talks about, so many people think about, well, I'm not this, I'm not good at that. I need to think about what I'm good at. We all know what those are. And so if you focus on your strengths, you can build upon those strengths. Or maybe there's something new you need to learn. That's okay too. Put that out there as something you want to inspire towards. But so let's take a little bit of self-reflection. What is my automatic brand? Am I known for getting it done, being reliable, being able to be connecting with people, a good listener, being able to be really good at your craft or whatever your profession might be? So this is a time for self-reflection, to think and reflect about yourself. And also, sometimes we may think we are doing a certain thing, but we have set different perceptions out there. And so we do need to understand, what are those perceptions out there that people are thinking about? Gain some input from that to help us kind of internalize, maybe we're doing one thing and saying something else. And when we are very focused on being able to thrive at our highest level, perhaps there are opportunities that might open up, or some, maybe that's not for me, because that really wasn't within the path on creating my brand. And then asking yourself, how would I change it if I kind of feeling like I'm in a rut, or I'm doing something I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of, or it's not making the impact and it's not serving the people that I want to serve? What do I need to do to change? Maybe I don't know. And how do I get input? So part of that is really evaluating where you are today after some of that self-reflection, people sharing something about yourself you maybe hadn't thought about. Think about, what excites me when I get up in the morning and I just want to keep doing that more. It can be out there helping people. It can be doing some kind of artwork, making a movie, whatever that might be. Working with all those fires that are going around and helping those firefighters. You know, what are my motivation and what are my values? These are all questions to ask yourself. What are my values? Like, one of my values is, how can I work with younger individuals or people of my same age, all diversity, to help them see the strengths that they have and help them be able to realize that and apply it in the world. That's what I love to do as an executive coach, as an educator. And that's sort of my passion, but you all uniquely have one. And I always like to ask this question, what makes you or me amazing? We all have some of those. And I would say, from me personally, just to share stories, is what makes me amazing is that I can build trust with people so that they will share things with me about what they might struggle with, what they secretly wish for, and look for guidance and be vulnerable. And then I can reciprocate back and really build that trust so that I can guide them effectively through coaching or point them to others that might be able to help them go along that path. That's what really gets me up in the morning, to be able to do that with others around me. And I've done that through my career at Ernst Young and even beyond that in the local communities. So with that, again, explore. So important. Sometimes even when we're going to college or afterwards, we're trying to figure out, where do we want to move our path going forward? So now, what's your story? And this is something, a lot of people may think self-reflection, okay, it stops there. But if you really want to take advantage of really seeing your path forward, what's your purpose, and building a plan forward to be able to thrive and help really achieve and be the person that we all know you can be, here is a way to start with that. Describe. And I love this quote by Jeff Bezos of Amazon.com. He was saying, branding is what other people say about you when you are not in the room. Now, it doesn't mean people are talking about you, but sometimes they can be saying a lot of positive things that you just didn't know, and being able to share your brand. But they need to know your story. What is your story? What do you want to be known for? What makes you different in terms of your unique capabilities, your unique way, your gifts? I like to call it your gifts, your special gifts. And then kind of boiling that down to what words describe you. So there's like an exercise you can go through that would talk about what really describes me. You know, am I generous? Am I a good listener? Do I have the leadership capabilities to lead people? Am I a follower? So I'm a great supporter. These are different things that you can think about and get feedback on to help start to tell your story. I'll tell you a little bit about one of my stories. When I was at Humboldt State, I studied computer science, which I loved, but I always had this passion for the arts, theater, acting, graphic arts. And so I always had this vision, how could I blend that with what I do technically, but also have some of my hobbies or some of my personal passions. And that's what led me to get involved in media and entertainment. And so I really had in my head, I didn't have the industry experience until I actually stepped into Sony Pictures. As Stephanie mentioned in my intro, I was able to get involved with Sony Pictures through Ernst Young right after they had their cybersecurity hack, and everybody was really in a world of chaos because they didn't know what happened. What are we going to do? Our company shut down. We can't work. We don't know what's happening. And so I took the opportunity to step into that because I was good at leadership and dealing with people who were going through tough times. And through that, I was able to really apply those skills and then learn about the media and entertainment business. And so with that, when you have a path and you know what direction you want to head to, these opportunities are going to show up. And so you know, that's the one for me. Or something else came up like, no, I'm going to pass on that. But it's not all about you and just, you know, your wants, but it's really about how you can make an impact in this world, how you can really take your unique gifts and get leveraged in, you know, building a career to be able to support your family or be able to make a mark in a certain industry. And so that's also knowing your strengths, having your purpose. What's your purpose? And really being clear on what that is. Because if you're doing something that you're not really very excited about, it's going to show. I've worked with so many people that have, you know, maybe they're doing it for the money, maybe they're doing it because they have a lot of obligations or their family, you know, is looking to them, but they're not really inspired. So it's really trying to dig a little bit deeper. You can still accomplish things because it's about, well, when I'm doing something, what do people expect from me? And a lot of times I like to say, you know, whatever you say you're going to do, you should do. That's a key to success. Otherwise, don't say it. And that's something I've said to many folks over the years about Being able to show those behaviors, walk the talk, is so important in a personal brand. If we think about a personal brand, I love Starbucks, and there's Pete's too, I love too. But if Starbucks didn't really have consistent coffees and always coming up with new innovations, we would start to lose interest in a brand like that. Or even like Nike. I have gone and worked at Nike before, and they're very diligent about their brand, very committed to their brand. In fact, don't wear Adidas tennis shoes if you're going to go visit them, because you better be having your own Nike shoes on there as well, because they look at that right away. So number 1 was explore. Number 2 was describe. Because if you write it down and keep it simple, it will definitely drive you into a focus and have a purpose. Having a if you're just saying, I want to do this, but you don't have a purpose, that's going to not be long lasting. So with that, is that once you have mastered those 2, how do you get the message out about your brand? Well, it's like getting the word out. And what is that messaging? Because here's the thing in the market. I have a little quote there. If you do not give the market the story or the story about you to talk about or to share, then they're going to make it up. If someone asks them, what do you think of Julianne? What do you think of Kevin? What do you think his views are? And so much of that can then go a different direction than perhaps the way you would like it to go. So being able to know your story and sharing your story is very important. And who do you want to share that story with? Who do you want to communicate that brand with is important. Just like any kind of product, you are something very unique, very individual. There is nobody else like you. So how will I market my brand? Well, there's different social medias out there. There's different ways to communicate, just like we are here together at HSU, learning from each other, being able to talk about various topics. These are all ways in which one can kind of get the message out about what your purpose and your direction is in your life's path going forward. And then what are those methods? Maybe you need to work with others that can speak on your behalf to get started. Maybe there are ways to volunteer in the local communities. I know throughout HSU, that's a huge factor, and one of the things I loved about Humboldt State when I was there, and it still exists today. I mean, actually, if I was to talk about a brand, Humboldt State University has an awesome brand about engaging all students in the local communities and being able to be hands-on, being able to really apply what you learn. And that's one of the things that really stays with me through really all these 30 years. And I'll tell anyone that because I'm speaking about Humboldt when they're not in the room. Now, with any brand and any of us as we grow, got to keep it fresh, got to keep it relevant. Think about COVID today. Now we're all doing education on Zoom. We're doing work on Zoom. We are doing volunteer work. We may be shopping, like Amazon has gone through the roof because everybody can't go to the mall as much as they used to. So much has changed, and so our brand needs to grow as well. And then you might ask yourself, well, how often do I need to change my brand? And it really depends where you are in your life, and it very well could be a transition has come. And if I were to share you my own personal story, so I just retired from Ernst Young in the last month, and I had a really great run in my career. And so now I'm reinventing myself to be a coach and an educator, and I will be doing that back at Ernst Young as well, but it'll be different from what I did before. So even today, being able to present and educate and share my own life's experiences is part of kind of reassessing brands and being able to really showcase different aspects of your life going forward. And then you may want to ask yourself, are there new skills I need to gain? Or I may have some strengths. How do I make those the superpower? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then who can provide me feedback? Sometimes we don't want to ask for that feedback. Oh, I don't know if I want to hear this. I'm a little nervous. Or I need it because I have no idea what I'm doing or how it's coming across. And that's both being vulnerable to ask for that, because they always say feedback is a gift. Whether or not it might be some constructive criticism, good to know now, not 20 years from now, like, oh, I wish I would have known that. So again, the 3 points. Number 1, explore, which is self-reflection. Number 2, which is describe. Write it down. I'm telling you, if you don't write it down, it's not going to happen. And then market. How do you communicate? And it's not being and having an ego to kind of share your story. People love stories. They want to hear about your life, hear about what your passions are and where your purpose in this world is. So I can guarantee you, if you really follow those simple formats, it can make a difference in how you think about your path forward. So one other thing that I will share, and then I know we're going to have some Q&A and some other things, but I will just share. Talking about, we can talk about it, but now let's activate it. Let's go make it happen. And I like to keep this simple approach to it. Once you've taken those steps or redone those steps, think about it in the word power, because when you just hear that word, it kind of brings you, some energy. And so if you think about the P for power, it's how do you project and be authentic? Kind of know what your beliefs are and being able to articulate those and talk about your capabilities and what your strengths are. And even perhaps you might want to talk about the things that you would like to build more muscle on. Next one, O, own your purpose path. So if you have some direction in your mind, kind of a purpose behind it, kind of the why, not necessarily the what I'm doing, it will really kind of change the way you think about how you want to move forward in the world, how you want to make decisions. So it's all about kind of being mindful that it's you that owns it, no one else. You know yourself best. You know what makes you really get excited when you get up in the morning, or if you're really down, how do you take control to be able to take that baby step forward, that big leap forward, or maybe you even need to take a couple steps back. That's okay, but you own your path. W, if power. Widen your network. Well, everyone says, oh, how do I build my network? I don't know. How do I do that? Or I'm really great at it. I can talk up a lot of people. But it's developing some of those deeper connections with people. I gave some advice to someone that was maybe actually on this call that I'm coaching, is to get an introduction from someone that they know. And of course, you're being diligent to learn about that person. But when you connect with that person, ask them for an introduction to someone they know. And so that would actually widen your network. And then the same can happen again, and then suddenly now you know 10 people. And you may stay connected with a few of those folks within your network. Some can be your mentor. Some can be your advocate that are talking about you when you're not in the room, or thinking about that job opportunity that you would be a perfect fit for, or thinking about this person, might be struggling through a personal trauma, but you've been through it before and you can really share some great examples. And then a sponsor is always someone too also that's looking out for you to make those introductions. Now, E, elevate your message. Tell us your story. We want to hear about you. We want to understand your story. What makes you amazing? What makes you remarkable? And it's not about just talking about yourself, but if you have purpose behind it, we love to hear about you and what you're going to do with that unique gift or gifts out there in the world. And we will be there right alongside of you to be able to help you communicate that message and tell your story. And I kind of use the word charisma. I know there's different types of personalities, but there's also just excitement in your voice when you talk about your story, your passions. Everyone has some. And then finally, R, realize your purpose. And I know along the way, we sometimes run into hardships. We've all had failures, but that's a moment in our life and there's lessons to be learned. And how do we apply those going forward? And those could be through at your school, that subject didn't go well, couldn't quite get that grade that you wanted, or it could be that job opportunity you wanted, or at work, things didn't go well because you were trying to do something that you didn't know how to do, or personally, that relationship didn't work out. But going forward is like knowing who you are, what your values are, and what you stand for. If you are strong in those beliefs, that will give you the strength and the resilience and give you the power to realize your potential and actually realize your potential. So with that, some short, easy ways to think about it. Takeaways that I have for you, and then we're going to open it up for questions, is to, one, assess your current personal brand, number one, or reassess if needed. And this applies to everyone probably on the call. We can all do a little bit of that. And then write your personal brand statement. If you put it into words and you write it down, it actually happens. And you can change it. Doesn't mean you're stuck with that. You can tweak it or say, oh, I'm throwing that one out. I want to redo it. Get some feedback. What do others think? Get the message out there. They're saying, wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know your story. And then being able to market or communicate that out to people to share. And what I would say is, don't be scared to present the real you. We want to know who you are. We want to know about your unique experiences that have shaped you. And being authentic is your key to success. I learned that a long time ago when, I thought I was a leader. I needed to set a certain example and didn't want to ever show any weakness. At the time when you show some weakness or some things that I struggled with, once I did that, it was a relief, and actually people would come to help you go forward and help build you up. And then that way, being authentic, you are really being the person that can thrive at the highest levels. So with that, I think we're right on time. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to launch one more poll. Megan, she's going to launch that poll. Or, well, Stephanie, did you want to say something before the poll, or we'll go ahead? The last poll is, now, as we talked about your power, what is your next action to create your personal brand? I would like to know what that is. And I hope with some of the points that I've shared today, that's inspired you, that's motivated you, that's given you pause, that's helped shape some of your thinking going forward. I'm hoping I can make that impact for all of you, because that is what I love to do. That's my passion, to help inspire you to be and realize your purpose. So we're just going to pause here for folks to get an opportunity to go and click that button. Thank you so much for interacting. It's really exciting for me, and it energizes me to be here with all of you. How are we doing, Megan? You're on mute otherwise. All right, I think she's going to share it back. All right, so it's kind of across the board. So I'm excited that folks are looking at reflecting and discovering themselves, and maybe doing a little bit of research more about, well, what does personal branding mean? And hopefully this gave you an opportunity to kind of spark that imagination of yourself to see how you can create your own personal brand. And again, to gain that input from people around you that know you, maybe even some people that don't know you, once you kind of refined it. So with this, thanks for sharing back the polling results. And Stephanie, am I turning it back over to you?
You sure
All
are.
right.
I'm gonna be feeding you all of the questions that are coming in. So
All
folks,
right.
we had a couple come in already, but I wanted to just make sure that you all knew, if you want to ask Carin a question about any of that awesome information you just heard, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom, and I'll be able to speak those to her. I do quickly want to just say, I see that Chen Beba has his hand raised in the participants. We're not answering questions that way, so Chen, if you could perhaps put that in the chat or the Q&A, we can definitely get you covered. But first up, this is from an anonymous attendee, Carin. Do you think LinkedIn is that helpful, or should I not focus on that too much?
Well, today, you know, from social media, LinkedIn, especially for in the business world, becomes a tool that is very important. People look at that, sometimes even compare to what you may have if you were in an interview or you were creating some business connections. They'll go there and verify. And also, I think there are ways you can even use it more to put information out there, what your interests are. Maybe you're posting things in your interest. And so I use that every day. I have for many, many years. And also it's a great way. They have education and learning on there as well, but definitely LinkedIn is important.
Okay. I definitely know that's getting added to my checklist of things to revamp a little bit then.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's a couple of questions here that I've asked about your slides, and if you'd be willing to share those, so we can, if you're willing to, we can post them with your recorded video later.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have access to those slides. There's questions that were listed there that you can ask yourself, and so I am very enthused to be able to share that and help you all going forward. Absolutely.
Wonderful. So for the folks who are wanting to have access to those, I'll just put in the chat real quick where you can find those. We'll put them on Carin's bio on the Forever Humboldt website, so that way you guys know where to look when we get those and post them. So there you go. Thanks so much. Looks like we have a question that came in from Bori Mazag, the department chair for computer science. She says,
all right.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do you have any specific suggestions for current computer science majors and how they can use their degree to build a personal brand?
Well, in my profession, thank you for that question. I love computer science, been doing that all my profession. But I think computer science today, in today's world, so much is around what I would call design thinking, around the customer experience, around data analytics, cybersecurity, and more. But a lot of companies, if I think about Walt Disney, when we were launching out Disney Plus, really that's all done digitally around the world. And computer science more and more is going to become such a big focal point. But it's also blending understanding the business and understanding the technology together, and how those blend, and then how people are impacted or affected by what you're actually delivering.
Okay, awesome. There's a lot of questions coming in, Carin.
Okay, that's right. I love questions. This is the fun part.
There you go. So this is from Sherman Shapiro. How do you determine others' perceptions? Just ask them, maybe?
I think for perceptions, a couple of different ways is, I think you had ask, but I think you do it in a way that to say, you know, kind of being humble, being vulnerable, and asking folks, I really like to gain your guidance, your knowledge, and really look to them and be a good listener. Sometimes we'll react, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, wow, that's so great. I didn't know somebody thought of me that way. So I think that's one way. Sometimes there's surveys that happen through work, or you have, if you're working or even in the university, you're getting a counselor that maybe has gotten input from others on you that can also share that. So those are, you know, a couple of different ways to gain the perceptions, because we may think we're one way, and then we learn, well, maybe we thought more of ourselves or less than ourselves too. I think it can go both ways, actually.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. This next question is from Dale Oliver. He is the Dean of the College of Natural Resources and Sciences. Thanks for all these folks being on today. What is it that you think got you in the door in your first professional position after HSU? Did your personal brand at the time make the difference?
Yeah, so when I was at HSU, I did an internship and kind of built a brand this was for Bechtel Corporation, and I was designing data analytics and dashboards, because I had a bit of the graphic design and the computer science. And so I was just I wasn't afraid to try some new things, and I had great people around me that I learned from. And so when I came back to Humboldt and I looked them up to maybe give a reference, that they had offered me a job there to continue to do what I was doing. And that kind of started my career. And then from there, I went into the consulting profession. So I got to work for a lot of different companies and do a lot. That was like my stepping stone to my time with Humboldt State University.
Okay, right on. This next question comes from James Pelligra. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry, James, if I didn't. Should my personal brand reflect my marketability or my life objectives?
I think, again, what I was mentioning is, and your personal brand is kind of like what your purpose is. So when you think about your purpose, again, personally, if I'm using my story, is to find the unique things in people and help them thrive. So from a professional standpoint, I would be a leader, manage teams, and sometimes in consulting, suddenly I have a team that was brought together and I don't even know them very much, so I'd have to seek out what they're best at and then balance that. But in the local community, and I teach and in family crisis as well. So my passion, again, was trying to find out their strengths to help them go through their healing journeys, to be able to manage through their own personal situations. So again, those different, I guess, strengths could apply both to your personal life as well as to your professional life.
Okay, right on. Let's see. There's a couple in here. What made you realize your superpower? This is from an anonymous person.
Uh-huh. Well, what made me realize my superpower was that I put together my purpose plan and then followed that path. So part of that was I wanted to be part of media and entertainment. And when I got that call, I'm going to Hollywood, I was so excited. I didn't care what I had to do. And I did work down there 7 days a week. So I really was pouring into my passion that helped me learn. I was learning, soaking it up, but also using my gifts in other ways. So it was a combination. And that's how I was able to then move on to work at other media and entertainment companies, such as Walt Disney and NBC Universal.
Great. Okay, here's one from Frank Whitlatch.
Okay,
Awesome
Frank.
talk. Awesome talk. Can you describe a typical coaching by Carin session?
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank, for that. So first of all, coaching is about listening. And it's about, so a typical session, and I do that coaching right now, kind of on a volunteer basis. So I want to hear about their story. So I'm like listening for words and then kind of repeating that back to them on what I've heard and saying, these were the things that I heard about you. You know, you have a strength and being able to organize people and get them motivated. Or you may have a really good way of articulating the problem and being able to communicate that. And sometimes it's like pulling out these gifts of folks to kind of play that back them and say, did I hear that right? Is that something that you wanted to project? And then having them write it down. So here's an exercise for you to go back and think through, get some feedback, and let's come back and talk it out. Honestly, let's all be vulnerable. And it's not just about me just wanting to listen and talk to the person. I would share my own personal situations too that might give them some comfort and some trust to have a reciprocal connected relationship.
Okay, great. Next up, how did you network with employees once you left the area? Or employers once you left the area? I think that's definitely something on the mind of a graduate.
Right, yes. How do you, first of all, when I first was looking at what kind of business or culture that I wanted to be part of, so I would go out and research about companies. First of all, I actually even at Humboldt State even went to the counseling center, kind of poured through all the books and talked to them, and also developed my own, resume that had my strengths and looked at job opportunities to see what they were looking for in people and how I could align to that. And then I think in my first job or my internship, one of my best friends, her father worked at Bechtel Corporation, and so she could make some introductions. And that's how I got my internship that led to my first job after school. So you never know where your network can take you.
Sure. And this same person kind of followed up with a perfect question for right now. How do you ask for favors, like asking for an introduction that you just mentioned, without feeling like a burden?
Well, I know that if you keep it short, so if you say, well, I would love to get some of your advice because I see that you have had this kind of experience and I want to just get some of your advice. And you would ask, I have a couple of questions to ask you, and maybe it's on coffee, maybe it's on Zoom, 15 minutes of your time, and keep it 15 minutes of your time. More often, if you've done your due diligence, you come prepared, you ask some very insightful questions, and you've done a little research on them, like through LinkedIn, what's their hobby, or maybe where they went to school, something personal that's meaningful to them, and you call that out. Often that 15 minutes could be a half hour.
Mm.
And then you can ask them, well, I'd love to do this again. Would that be possible? And more often than yes, more often than not, they say yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. This next question comes from Adrian Haro Flores. Thank you for this workshop. What was your favorite class as an undergrad at HSU, and are you still in contact with those professors?
So there is in the computer science, so Chip Dixon, who was a professor there for many, many years, still lives in the area, and I have been in contact with him, kind of looking to come and visit him. He was teaching at that time a computer programming class, kind of like the basics. But what I remember about him was that we were starting up the Computer Information Science Club. And he was like the sponsor for that. And we would have, we had like a Halloween party at his house. He even came to some weddings after we graduated. And so we stayed in contact. And that was very memorable. And even after, I just reached out to him about a couple months ago.
Okay.
And he kind of remembered. And of course, I had to send him a picture just to make what I looked like at that time. Actually, it wasn't all that different.
Yeah. Well, I'm much more better with pictures than I am names, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
But also at the same time, when I was at HSU, I also took graphic design. So we had a graphic design studio. So I kind of blended between computer science and graphic design. And so that was kind of my passion, to mix the two together. And so Mark Isaacson was another professor there. He was the art teacher. So he's written a couple books as well that I have. So those were a couple that really stood out to me.
great. I was just looking in the comments. It looks like hooray for Chip. Dale Oliver, our dean, he knows Chip as well.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just got a recent picture of him and his 2 granddaughters. That was really fun.
Great. Well, this next question comes from Sherman Shapiro. What adjustments have you made now that we're working in a Zoom world, and this, maybe your compensation on, like today, you can't see all of us panelists. You're talking to yourself pretty much. How have you been able to adjust to the Zoom world?
Well, I actually, from one of my passions now is to be able to teach, and Zoom is the likely choice probably for the next generation to come. So I prepared myself by taking like an 8-week course on how to teach with Charisma using Zoom, and getting all the right equipment, getting the lighting, the audio, practicing, and also being able to come alive. And maybe that's part of my acting too, because I have acted on stage, so there's a little bit of that going on. But at the same time, I love to be in person with people, so this is the closest thing we can do. And a lot of my Zoom interactions and teachings, are very interactive, and that's why I like polls and other things like that to give it a little fun, because I think it can get quite tedious being in front of a computer unless you throw in a little bit of fun and interaction.
Sure, definitely. Okay, this next question comes from Sierra Jenkins. Thanks, Carin, with being a great leader, speaker, and teacher. Have you ever had to teach others older than yourself? If so, how did you go about it, or how can one go about it to ensure those you're teaching don't feel their intelligence is being questioned? Because teaching someone older than yourself can sometimes be uncomfortable and intimidating.
Yes, thank you for your question about teaching all ages. I think with, yes, I have taught all ages. I think the most difficult is below, 10 years old. That's harder for me. But I think it's recognizing the different learning styles and approaches with people. And also, sometimes with teaching, I learn more sometimes from the students. So it's about asking those insightful, powerful questions and hearing their experience and knowledge. So in teaching folks that are older, they have a lot of experiences, and asking them to share those experiences helps kind of build their confidence, makes them feel that they're valued. And anyone who feels valued really gets enthused about the classroom experience or the learning environment. So that's one way that I do that as well.
Okay, great. This question comes from Max Fletcher. How do you personally deal with criticism?
Well, I think I'm probably the hardest critic on myself. So now, that was always, a challenge for me, because I would take the negative criticism so deeply and forget to focus on the positive. So now it's just learning how to be a really good listener and being able to take that in. Some I may agree with, some I may not agree with, but I would just thank them for their feedback. It's a gift, and some I may apply, some I might want to get a second opinion if I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I would also thank them for that, because it's hard to give constructive criticism to others. And so if it's honest and it's authentic and someone's not trying to just talk you down at you, I think you kind of listen a little bit more and pause. Sometimes you have to take 3 deep breaths. Okay, I'm gonna listen, because I can learn something from this.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, we got a comment in here real quick from Emily K. Looks like maybe a 1976 grad. Thanks for being with us. She said, as an older person now, eyeball roll. I like hearing what younger, energetic people can teach me, because I want to keep up with what's happening now. So, Sierra, we should connect you with Emily K, and you guys can practice with each other on teaching. But here's the last question, Carin, and then we'll wrap things up. This anonymous attendee says, I hope you're thinking about hosting a podcast. I think they liked what they heard today. Is that something you'd ever think of in your future?
Absolutely. That's one I would love to do, podcasts. I even have in my, what I would call my purpose plan, to do a TED Talk someday. I haven't done that, but have some different recordings as I see others do that, and really excites me to do that. So whoever did that, thank you so much. That inspires me. That's some great feedback.
Cool.
I like it.
Okay, very good. Well, I don't want to keep us, we're a few minutes over the hour. That's just perfect. And we got everyone's questions answered. And so someone just asked about the link to Carin's slides. Those are going to go up on the Forever Humboldt website under Carin's bio. So I can put that link again into the chat. There you go. That's where it'll be found on the website. But gosh, Carin, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone who attended and got to hear what you had to say. We're stoked that these are all recorded. Now you're part of our alumni video archive. But I just want to remind everyone that we every year depend on people in the community and other alumni to nominate fabulous people like Carin. So I just want to put a little shameless plug in for be sure to nominate folks. The form to do so is up right now, and we close those nominations every January, and every spring make our announcements on our distinguished alumni. So be sure to go to our forever.humboldt.edu website and look at past recipients and think of folks who you might know that are just as awesome as Carin are. So Carin, I so appreciate your time and am really grateful for the information you shared with us today, and congratulations on being a distinguished alumni.
Thank you so much. And Megan and Stephanie, you made it so easy to take care of all the details, and that just made it go so much more smoother. So I thank you so much for that. And I do think Frank and perhaps Deborah were on the call, who are part of the leadership there at Humboldt State University. And of course, to everyone that's attended today, thank you so much for being here. And I'm hope that you find your superpower. And I can tell you, if you follow these steps, it'll get you there. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Carin. And have a great day, everyone. We're going to stay on the webinar for about 60 seconds just to give everyone the opportunity to sign off. But this is the end of our series. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye, Carin.
Bye.